traditions here are different than those that we are used to. And that will consider us, or that will make us feel that we are in غربة يعني, estrangement, if you will. Who does feel that he is in a place where he is aware of the differences between this environment and the environment that he came from? Or you think that is the same, nothing has changed? You are still the same, your social extensions are the same, your habits and your acts and your goals are still the same. Okay, let's use this as a starting point, and later, inshallah, we'll generate more ideas and more discussion. You feel that you are in the same situation that you were in, nothing has changed for you, or you feel that you are in a different place? This is the question. Who feels that he is in the same thing? Nothing has changed. He was in a certain lifestyle and he is still in the same lifestyle. He was doing certain things, now he is still doing the same things that he was doing. Nothing has changed for him. Anybody is like that? Or you feel that it is different here? You feel it's different?
Yes.
Basically, that's most of us. You know why? If somebody says or said, I do not feel any difference, he has a very serious problem. Either he doesn't know where he is, or he doesn't know where he came from. Definitely, we are in a different reality. All the things that are around us are different. There are certain, common things that the whole world shares, basically. There are people here, there are people there, buildings here, building streets, and things like that. But when it comes to the culture, when it comes to the laws in general, when it comes to the social habits, it is a different reality. When you go to a different reality or come to a different reality, the first thing, let's say that you were put under anesthesia in a hospital. And then you woke up. After a while, the anesthesia goes away and you open your eyes. What's the first thing you think that's going to come to your mind? The last thing that was on your mind when you went under anesthesia. As if, the time between the time that you got the anesthesia and the time that you woke up is omitted from your memory. You don't remember nothing. All you remember, I was, stretched in the stretcher and I was given anesthesia. That's all that you will remember. The time that's in between is lost. You will not remember it. But then you start looking at your surroundings. I was in a different room. The faces that are around me right now are different from the faces that they become aware of time. You want to see how many hours you were out, and so on. This is basically discovering your new reality. And this is common to all creatures. Take a cat from one place and in a car and put it in another place. It will, for a moment, stall for some time. Even if it might run for safety to find a place to hide. But then the first thing will come to mind is this is a new reality, and I need to figure it out and see where I am. That is the normal reaction of all beings. Have you ever thought that you are in a new reality and you need to discover it? There are certain things that you have to, even if you don't want to, because it has to do with your existence, your very existence. When you arrive, you want a place to stay, to sleep overnight. You want to find a place to eat. Those are your closest, the closest necessities to yourself, and they are directly related to your existence. If you don't eat, you will die, you'll get sick. If you don't find a place to sleep, you might end up in the streets, and that is very dangerous. So you will think about these things, your basic needs. Like after that, you found a hotel, you found a restaurant, you find you're staying in these things. What is the normal thing? To start looking for other things according to your priorities. If you are a Muslim, a committed Muslim, you will inquire if there is a masjid, for example, in this area. If you have a certain disease or a certain medical condition, you start asking where is the nearest hospital, because these things are important to you. Like, all of these things have to do with your being. Later on, you will look for a job, or you will go to the university you came to study in, or to do whatever you came here to do. That's the normal thing. After all of these things, that's what happens, unfortunately, with many Muslims. They stop there. They stop there. Those are the ones who doesn't have a sense of belonging. They belong to themselves. That's it. All they care about is themselves. Many of them will say, Alhamdulillah, I was in a very difficult situation now. At that is not the spirit that Islam teaches us. Prophet ﷺ was given a class to Muslims, to the Sahaba. Somebody says, Assalamu alaikum, and he sat down. Another one came and he stayed aside. A third one, he did not join them, join the circle, that is. A third one, he left. Prophet ﷺ praised the first one. And he encouraged the one that was away to join. And he said about the third one, أَمَّا ذَاكَ فَأَبْعَدَ أَوْتَعْدَ أَبْعَدَهُ اللَّهُ. Like that. He made a dua that he left. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep him away. Because a Muslim by nature is supposed to be sociable with those who are alike. Those who share the same idea, the same belief, the same understanding or worldview, why we are here, what we came for, where we are going, and all of these things. That is the normal thing. Those are the people that we will talk about. The others have problems. Other people who care only about themselves, they should not be even listening to discussions like this. Why would they? They're wasting their time. They're not concerned about anything except themselves. And when it comes to themselves, by the way, don't think that they are concerned about how to keep their identity and not to. That's the last thing they care about. You know, all they want to know is how can I make more money if they are here for money? How can I enjoy my life and go to party and drink and womanize and these things? That is what they came for. Those ones, by the way, we have a duty towards them, even if they do not want us. We Muslims and those who are trying to keep their identity and to keep their Islam have a duty toward those ignorant Muslims, and that is to teach them the meaning of being a Muslim, and that part of being a Muslim is to have a collective line of thinking, not to think about yourself alone, but to think about those brothers and sisters of yours, because you are a part of them and they are a part of them. إنما المؤمنون إخوة, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said. Like, you have came with other Muslims, you feel the feeling of belonging to these people. As a group who think like that, what are our priorities and what we should be concerned about? As a group, not as an individual. You know, as an individual, we know what to do. There's nobody who doesn't know what's his best interest. But when it comes to us as Muslims, what we are supposed to focus on and to keep thinking and planning and about as Muslims, as a group, okay? What do you think our goals should be? Your goals, you know, you're part of Muslims in this part of the world. And as a Muslim, you live in a reality that is not Muslim. People around you are not Muslim. What do you think our goals should be?
Give the right vision about the Muslims.
To do what?
Give the right vision about the Muslims.
Have a vision. Have a vision. You are a pioneer, and pioneers are supposed to be visionaries. Visionaries. A person without a dream, without a vision, is a failure. Even as a human being, from a social point of view of life, everybody is supposed to have an agenda. Everybody. For himself, for his family, his wife and his children, and for Muslims in general. You're supposed to have a vision for everyone. And every great act starts with a vision. But what's the goal of the vision that you have? What you're trying to come up as a vehicle to take you to a result. What that result that you should be concerned with? In the end, what do you want to achieve as a group of Muslims? To do what? To unify the Ummah. That's fine, but we are concerned on the part that has to do with our existence as Muslims. This is the focus of us as Muslims in a non-Muslim society. We have other duties towards Muslims overseas as well, but exactly like the person who came and who thought about the hotel and the hospital and these things, think along the same lines, but as a group now. He wanted to exist. You want as a group to exist. You have challenges around you, exactly like the guy who just came from the airport also has priorities and things to think about. What are our priorities and our goals that we should have in order to stay as Muslims and stay unified as a group? You should have a vision, true. Everybody is supposed to have a vision. But what do you want to achieve in the end? A vision to do what? A vision to achieve what?
Maybe it's two things. Toward the Muslims, to keep them gathering in this community, and for the non-Muslims to correct the incorrect ideas about the Muslims.
Da'wah. That is da'wah, to explain Islam to them or to present Islam to them. Mumtaz, very good, alhamdulillah. So we should think along two lines. One line is how to protect our Islam and our identity, how to prevent ourselves from melting in the society and losing our identity and losing our Islam. And the other, how to change the reality that we are in favor, to be in favor of Islam. Not only to invite non-Muslims to Islam, but to change the environment itself from an environment which is hostile to Islam, that is the reality, to a one that is welcoming to Islam. These are, each one of them is like a huge mountain. Okay, we're supposed to take it one by one and try to analyze it, break it into pieces so that we understand exactly what we mean when we say preserving our identity. You know what the problem of us Muslims, when we talk about things like that, we throw cans at each other. Nobody is willing to sit down and open this can and see what's inside of it. Okay, because we are used to generalizations and general judgments rather than looking at the details. When we think the important thing is to analyze the reality in order to understand it, not to package it in bigger packages. And that is very important when we think. Let's take the first goal or the first task, and that is to preserve ourselves. What exactly do you want to preserve? Your main concern is to preserve what in you?
You think?
Your deen. And your deen has two parts. The theoretical part, and that is what you believe in, your aqidah, basically. And second, the sharia, that which will protect your acts. You want to protect your mind, number one. And second, you want to protect your acts from, being evil acts and doing the things that you are supposed to do and keeping the akhlaq that you're supposed to do. طيب, let's come to the first part. You want to preserve your aqidah, not your personal aqidah, the aqidah of the whole community. Think about the whole community. Even if you don't have children, there are other people who have children. Even we are not women, but there are women in our community as well. So think comprehensively. You're talking about the whole Muslims. How can you preserve the aqidah of the Muslims in general? Here, and I'm talking about here. We're not talking about, the Muslim Ummah as a whole. How can you do that? How can you preserve the deen and the belief system and also the acts of Muslims, the a'mal, taba'hum, preserve it from the culture that we live in, as a culture of kufr? Here, the taste is not based on Islam, the acts are not Islamic, the laws are not Islamic, the social relationship between the individuals are not Islamic, and you're trying to carve up a space for yourself to practice your Islam and to keep your identity. What would you do? Yes, you raise your hand.
Lead by example. Lead by example.
Lead by example, meaning what?
By showing that goodness, the akida that you speak of, to show the ummah, show the other Muslims around you by, behaving in a certain way.
To teach the Muslims,
Exactly.
right? That this is the right way to do.
Correct.
Right? Very good. But this you have to do it anywhere. Even if you are in Mecca, you're still supposed to do that. By the way, this has become so big in the minds of many Muslims that sometimes it reaches a point of riya. You know what riya is? Riya is showing off. That you do something so that people will point at you. Say, oh, look at him, he is good. Or he is trying. When we do things that are good, we do that for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not for the people to see us. But the normal thing is that people are going to notice. If you take time from your work and you have colleagues who work with you and they notice that every time at this time you go somewhere, or at Maghrib time you eat something, they're going to ask you, that this is strange, Then you can use that as a good opportunity to explain what Islam is, or what this part of Islam is. The work that has the lasting capability is to have establishments to do that. That is the real truth. Any community, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, whatever it is, in order to preserve itself, it's supposed to establish institutions based on their ideas. Because the nature of this society is that it is an individualistic society. Meaning what? Everybody is an island by himself. He has his goals, he has his life, he has, and in many cases, his schedule is full. If you want to keep up with the junk mail that comes to you in your mailbox, you will not have time for anything else. There are so many things to worry about, You're supposed to be focused because there is a lot of things that you need an institution in order to gather people in the same place, like we have here. This institution to have in order to create a nucleus of a community in order to protect identity is what? The masjid. Establishing the masjid. That's what the Prophet ﷺ did when he arrived in Medina. The first thing, before he did anything, his first act was what? to establish a masjid. And that is an establishment, by the way, which tells us that Islam, by nature, needs institutions in order to be able to apply at least parts of it. Not everything. Later on, the biggest establishment, of course, is the state. State is supposed to be Islamic and is supposed to take care of the Muslims when it comes to education, when it comes to education, when it comes to business, all of these things. But for people who do not have the power of the state, the first thing is to establish a masjid. And I advise Muslims, any area that you go to, even if it's a rural area, start deliberately looking for Muslims. Back in the old times, there used to be a phone book, yellow pages and white pages, and we used to go, through that. Go on the Google map and put masjid or Islamic center and search if there is a place like that. If you find that there is no such a thing, gather the Muslims that live in the area and try to start a masjid, even if it consists of one small bay in a plaza or something like that, and dedicate it as a masjid from the beginning, so that when others come, they will find something. Even if you gather them in your house, set a room aside. This room is going to use it for Jama'ah, we're going to use it for Jum'ah, at least, together in such a place. Meet with them in the park on Friday and have prayers in the park, if you are allowed to do so. So, in order to preserve ourselves and our identity, we have to have establishment. Establishment doesn't necessarily mean big buildings, and things like that, but you need certain things. Masjid is the first thing. How to preserve the identity of our children? We need a school. Even if the school is just a space, a place under a tree that the children meet in order to learn. It's very important for them to receive an Islamic education, because if you spend all of your time, you and your wife, trying to raise a kid up and making him or her good and making them very moral, and then you throw them in the public schools, what's going to happen? All of the things that we did at home are going to be gone. Because psychologically, the child imitates the environment that he is in, or he conditions himself or herself to adapt with the environment that they are in. This is a kid, a boy or a girl, they want to play. If they stay aside and say these people are not Muslims, I don't want to be, they're going to have a serious problem, human problem, because they're supposed to mingle with people like them. But if they mingle with them, with these people, they're going to like them. That's the human nature. People like their friends, and people learn from their peers in schools and other places more than they have learned from their parents. Because that which they received from their parents to them is what? Something obligatory. I have to listen to my father, I have to listen to my mother. Now, in this situation, when you have a friend, he cannot force you to do anything, he cannot, but he will shape your taste, your liking and disliking. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mar'u ala dini khalili." A person takes his religion from his khalil, his friend. "Mar'u ala dini khalili." Wallahi, I know a brother, a doctor, he teaches at a university I studied in. He's from Libya, he's a Muslim from Libya. He told me that he used to physically punish his son if he speaks English. If he says yes at home, he will take his hand and hey, don't say that again. Say now, in Arabic that is. He said, until I sent him to school. When I sent him to public school, 6 months. After that, now it is the opposite. He doesn't speak anything, except English. And he says, if you want to hit me, that's fine. But this is the language I'm going to speak. Why? Because to him, this is something exceptional. You know, if he doesn't do that, nobody's going to play with him. Nobody's going to talk to him. Nobody. So to him, it's like the Mexican worker who comes here and works at a gas station. Give him 48 hours. He will learn. Do you want me to fill it? How much? Let me have. These words he will learn them in the first hour, actually. Why? Because his living depends on it. You know, his living depends on it. While if you leave him alone and you provide him with all of his needs, he will never learn these words. Maybe years and years will pass before you learn them, because there is no motivation. Why would he learn, you know, such a thing? In the first case, there is strong motivation to do that. And that's why you find a lot of us who start businesses or work and say, the first things they will learn is what pertains to their job and their profession, because that's where they make their living from. Okay? So we need Islamic schools in order to teach our children and prevent them. What else? What else? Do you feel we Muslims here in this community are missing things that we need in order to preserve our identities? What are we missing other than the masjid and the school? And those are extremely important, extremely important. But what do you think that other tools that you need in order to do that?
You mean like representatives?
What?
Representatives with the government or something?
Okay, that's why any group work that you want to do, you're supposed to have what? A person in charge. Okay, لا يحل لثلاثة في فلا إلا أن يؤمروا عليهم أحدهم. 3 people traveling in the desert, it's haram for them if they do not appoint somebody as an emir, somebody as in charge. All group work. And that is, I mean, it's not only a hukum, it's also a reality, because if everybody wants to do whatever he wants to, there is no jama'ah. Without an imam, can you have a jama'ah? Everybody's going to do whatever they want, pray at their own pace, and soon you will find everybody on his own. Always, in order to have a group and to have group work, you're supposed to have somebody who is in charge. Okay? Let me give you other examples that I believe are useful in that. I came across an experiment in Chicago where there were some brothers from Ethiopia, Muslims, and I was surprised. I asked a brother, where are you from? One of them. He said Ethiopia. I said Eritrea. He told me, Ya akhi, why every time I meet somebody from the Middle East and I tell him that I am a Muslim from Ethiopia, he thinks that Muslims are only in Eritrea. He said 60% of Ethiopia are Muslim. You know, we are everywhere, all over Ethiopia. But what these people did, they did something really smart that tells you that they understand exactly how to preserve their identity and how to even to do da'wah and everything. They work, all of them, as cab drivers. There were 6 or 7 of them, I believe. They went and they rented, all of them, cooperatively, rented a building that has enough apartments for them. And they left one apartment empty. All of them live the same life. In the morning, they wake up and they go down to the first floor where the empty apartment is. They pray the Fajr together, men and women, separate. Then they sit down and they read Quran, also together, a big circle, men alone and women alone, and they read the Quran. And then they will receive their little ones, the children, those who could not come to the Fajr, and they will start a school. Soon the men will leave and go to their work. The women will take charge of educating the children in Islam, mainly teaching them Quran, how to, memorizing certain chapters, and things like that. Then the kids go to play in front of the building or a nearby park or something like that. Those who go to school, go to school. They used to go to the public school. Then the women, all of them, they start working on lunch. They make lunch one meal for the whole people. At 2 o'clock or before that, the men come from their work to pray their dhuhr and to eat their lunch. And after lunch, they go back to their work, and come Asr or after Asr, they pray Asr and they stay together. You feel that their life basically is a closed thing. I suggested that to some Muslims and they said that's not good. That is living in a ghetto. And a Muslim is supposed to be involved and engaged in the environment that he is in. I agree. But it doesn't mean also to be in the situation that we Muslims are in. The situation we are in, each one is in a different country. That's not a good thing. You seek something at least in the middle, something that's normal, where Muslims are supposed to be together, live in a certain area. Always ask where there is a Muslim, a masjid that you are going to go to, and try to rent around it and live around it. There are many masajid and everywhere. You don't like this neighborhood, there are places in other neighborhoods. But make the masjid like the nucleus of the community. Later, people are going to open businesses that cater to Muslim needs, selling hijab and Islamic dabiha, all of these things. And they'll grow from that, to be a community that is involved with one another. And you don't have to do that deliberately, to sell your house and go buy a house near the masjid. No. But if you want to buy a house or an apartment, do that within 1 mile or 2 miles from a masjid. You want to rent a place that is nearby a masjid. These things, by the way, you might not be aware of how important they are, but they are very, very, very important. Imagine when your father asks you, or your son asks you, why you're going from one place to another, father, and you tell him that I am looking for a place near to the masjid. Close to the masjid. You have taught him a lot of things without even paying attention, without giving him long lectures, or admonishing them with a lot of advice and a lot of do's and don'ts. And those are the ideas, by the way, that will stay with the child for the rest of his life. Things that he feels that were not pushed on him. Things that were given indirectly to him, because he will later on, when he's young and he says, wallahi, I should be within a walking distance from a masjid, because I remember my father did such and such. That idea will stay with him. But what else we Muslims are supposed to do in order to preserve our identity? Teamwork. Always to learn teamwork. And teamwork means that you cooperate with other Muslims to achieve certain goals which will help yourself or others in protecting their identity, understanding their Islam. Let me give you an example. Where I came from, about maybe 50 or 60 meters away from the house I lived in, there was a masjid. Now overseas how it is. Every few yards you'll find a masjid. So the one that was the closest to me, I used to go and pray there. Then I was like 14, 15 years old. Those who are older than us, those who were in the secondary school or in colleges and universities, they came up with a suggestion. Since we are here, we pray Maghrib and we're staying in the masjid anyways. We're not going nowhere because Isha is they're very close usually. Why don't we meet and يعني نستفيد من الوقت, use the time in order to do something good. Wallahi, I remember within 6 months there was a library, a big library. It has hundreds of books, maybe 600, 700 books. Well, Muslims donated it, either donated books or money to buy books. And we had a program where every day between Maghrib and Isha, there is a class according to what people specialize in. Those who specialize in fiqh will give a class of fiqh daily, weekly. We have 7 people. One day it will be fiqh, one day it will be tajweed, one day it will be Islamic history, one day is going to be tawheed and aqidah, one day is going to be seerah. I stayed there 4 years, from 14 to 18. When I went to university to study Sharia, I found out that most of the curriculum and most of the things that I am listening to at the university, I already knew them, from the 4 years that I was in the masjid. It's that simple. And that made my life and my study enjoyable, because now I have more time and more abilities to go deeper in these subjects and to have more resources at the university library and so on. But this should be in every masjid. This should be in every masjid. You have certain abilities, go to the administration of masjid. Wallahi, I have this ability. I studied Arabic language at length. I am good to teach anybody who wants to learn Arabic. Those who are non-Arabs, those new Muslims, I can teach them the language. I want to take a day. You suggest to me the time that is suitable, and I'm going to do that. And then somebody else will say, I studied hadith, the ilm of hadith, science of hadith, and I can afford an hour, every week, and I want to do that. The main thing is to have organized effort. The effort that is useful and that gives a result, gets you somewhere, is the teamwork. The thing that you do in cooperation with other people. Because that is a group responsibility. You're not talking about yourself or your kids, or you're talking about the general Muslims. And any group work needs any group results, that you are targeting, needs organized group work as well. I don't know why maybe the way of life that we are living here does not encourage these things, or like I said, maybe people have different priorities and different things, but teamwork among Muslims is very important, even if it is to play football together or basketball. That in itself is a good teamwork, it's a good activity, team activity. But because we're running out of time, the other part, the other mountain, if you will, of responsibility is to make da'wah to non-Muslims. Those are the main two concerns that a Muslim is supposed to have. How to protect me and my community as a Muslim, to keep our identity and to be Muslims. That includes political work, but not political work to elect Bush or Trump or whoever. Political for Muslims. That is to unify the view of Muslims regarding political issues and how to think Islamically when it comes to politics. Because a lot of people think Islamically when it comes whether this meat is halal or haram. But when it comes to politics, when it comes to economy, when it comes to global issues, they don't have any Islamic view on that. They think that these are political issues, political activities that Islam doesn't deal with, which is not true. Now,
They think Islam is in masjid.
they teach Islam as a spiritual religion, because that is,
They think Islam is only in masjid.
yeah, you can teach Islam anywhere, but also the Islam that is given to people. Allah يشي ببكي. يعني when I listen to the lectures on Islam or khutbahs, I see, am I in a church? This is exactly what the priest, talks about. Doesn't have to do with reality at all. It just takes you in a journey away from your reality, like somebody who's high or something. And then he brings you back and throws you to the junkyard that you came from, or to the jungle, that you came from. It's sort of a therapy, if you will, a psychological, spiritual therapy for the people. The real Islam is to talk about issues that concern Muslims, what to do and how to do things. That is what Islam. I'm not saying that Islam doesn't have a spiritual aspect to it. It does, and it's very important. Okay, but Islam is a practical religion that deals with real life issues, so that you can know how to do things as a Muslim. But this was the first part. The second part is how to make da'wah to non-Muslim. Our image of da'wah, unfortunately, is in the minds of most Muslims, is him, the Muslim, sitting with another person who is not a Muslim and talking, mainly about Jesus and Trinity and things like they are Christian. This is their image of da'wah. يعني في هذا الكلام راح. This method was effective and good in the past when people have a lot of contact, as people. This is good to do it if you're talking to your friend who is not Muslim, or to your neighbor, or somebody that faith puts you together for 3-4 hours every day. Then you can use that and talk to this person. But in order to do real da'wah in a modern society like this, individualistic society, is also an institutional work, an organized work. First, you have to present Islam in a positive way so that people at least become neutral to Islam, and later so that Islam becomes favorable to people. Before you even tell a person, come Muslim, when you drive on I-95 and you see a high building that says Sinai Hospital or Star David Hospital and a big Jewish symbol, isn't that da'wah, that institution has more powerful da'wah than all of the Muslims here talking about Islam. Because this is something good. Somebody will look at it and say, look at Judaism, and it's a religion of mercy. And if you go to that hospital and they treat you and cure you from the disease, again, you will appreciate that. And you will think that these people are angels of mercy. That kind of action that we are missing. Okay? The establishing this masjid here in this neighborhood itself, just being here without opening your mouth, caused many people to become and declare their Islam. Nobody talked to them. Okay, but it attracted their attention, and it was the starting point for them to start thinking, what Islam is, and that led them to become Muslim. في العلوم العسكرية, military art, there's usually something that is called softening the target. If you want to attack an enemy that is camped in a certain area, what you're supposed to do first? Well, of course, you have to send your eyes and to see that what is there and so on. And based on the information that you have about the opposite military side, you are supposed to soften the target. Soften to target means what? That you shell it, rockets, cannons, whatever it is, and you target certain areas, communication places, for example, supply or roads that lead to it, and all of this. After you soften it, then you can attack. You can send your tanks or your soldiers or whatever. Usually you have to soften when you eat, you take the bite in your mouth, and what do you do with it first? You grind it, you eat it, you munch on it. Okay, to do what? To make it soft so that it can go easily, to your stomach. And in your stomach, it becomes easy to digest. Life is like that. If you want the people here to become Muslim, don't go to them and tell them become Muslim. That is very naive approach. And by the way, he might tell you, yes, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, but then he will leave and he's just trying to please you. Because this society is like that. They like to please, and they like to show respect to other people. But if you want to have effective da'wah, you're supposed to create the environment that is receptive to Islam. And after that, you do your da'wah. TV stations, radio stations, شو بسموها الصحف paper, newspapers, magazines, that talk about Islam and not attack them or attack their religion. Well, I remember we used to have a program. Most of the time I used to, a radio program. One time I couldn't go, so they had somebody else who was new the first time he goes on the air. And at the end of the program, we used to open the lines for people to call and ask. One lady called and started asking about Islam. He asked her, what are you? What's your religion? She said, it's none of your business. He said, no, I want to learn. Or she told him, I'm Christian. He told her, you believe in Jesus and believe Trinity? And she said, yes. He told her to take these ideas, go to the bathroom, put it in the commode and flush it. I was crazy. I was listening. Later, I told the guy who used to make the program, organize it, man, you're crazy. You let somebody say something, something on it. She told him, why you don't be nice and talk about your religion? Let other people have their own religion. You don't have to talk about other people's religions by being bad and wrong and are not worth even to be out, but have to be flushed, in the bathroom. This is not the way to spread dawah. People here are not ideologues. Actually, they hate ideologies and they hate sitting, having a long discussion, 2 hours, trying to chase the truth, as it were. And they don't think like this. Here, people are practical. They want to see the effect of what you are saying on you. If you talk a lot, for example, they will tell you that whatever you want me to be is not good because it's going to turn me into a terrorist, like you. That's how they think. It might get the opposite result. My point is, even making da'wah to non-Muslims also needs institutions in addition to your normal life. That you make da'wah while you're living. You have colleagues, you have neighbors, this is something that you're supposed to do always and anyway. But if you want effective da'wah at a group level, we Muslims are supposed to have a radio station so that people can listen in cars and things like that. We're supposed to have our own TV. We're supposed to have our own educational places, schools, private schools that non-Muslims would love to come to, because it is safe environment, because it is good, there is no drugs, no gangs, and people receive a moral education in addition to their academic education. That is a very, very powerful form of making da'wah. I hope that we reach this level of making da'wah and preserving ourselves so that we will not continue in this circle of the same thing. People want to do something for Islam, they go and build masjid. They build masjid, they go and pray on it, and then they go home. You could do that in your own home. You don't have to. Jum'ah, you can do it in any place. The masjid is supposed to be a hub for activities, a place where ideas are generated, where projects are constantly coming. This one fails, start another 2. Both of them do not work, change your direction and start trying another route, and so on. Like a beehive, where everybody is working. Everybody has some time in order to donate and generate ideas and help in achieving these goals. But I just wanted to brainstorm our brains basically, rather than give an education. Wanted more people to participate in that, but at least I hope this will open our eyes and our minds, to these issues, and to start thinking about them and generate ideas about them. Barakallah feekum, and I'll stop here, inshallah. Yes.
There's 2 things that I noticed while I live here, that the Muslims are mostly defensive. They defend their religion.
That's wrong.
Which is wrong.
Yes.
They want to show the others that we are a good person. We are good people, not bad as you think, but in a way makes us looking weak and in a bad situation. The other thing about da'wah, as you are saying, that should be an institution and people who know how to make da'wah. So what I see here, that there is I don't want to name jama'ah, okay, group of people who go from door to door, but as a
That's
knowledge-
very old-fashioned.
No, has a knowledge, but I recognize that they don't know anything. Just Allah bless us because we are praying Salat al-Isha. But talking like, as you are saying, like how to attract the non-Muslims in a way, they don't. Which,
Like I told you, we're stuck, Muslims are stuck in the past. It's good to stuck in the past when it comes to your elements of faith, for example, when you're with your fiqh. I myself admire older fiqh. I do not go by any modern sheikh. I usually, if I want to check an issue, I go to what Imam Malik said or Imam Shafi'i. But when it comes to methodologies and when it comes to tools, times are changing. Times are changing. Now there is internet, for example. We have thousands of e-Buddhist temples on the internet where you can go and ask a monk, whatever questions you want to, maybe you can pray together. There is not a single e-masjid up to now where people can, from the comfort of their homes, they're feeling down, they had a loss in the family, and they can reach out and talk to a sheikh, for example, or a non-Muslim, who has a question, who has something, he can go to the site and ask his question and ask for somebody to explain certain ideas, to him or to her. Methodologies, you can choose whatever methodology that is effective. Okay, and nothing wrong with it. There is no halal and haram when it comes to the tools that you use. A car is a car. You can use it to transport you to the masjid or to transport you to a bar. It's neutral. What you do with it is what makes the use of it halal or haram. But these tools, they're universal. They're used by atheists, communists, Christian, Muslims, any other religion. We need, when it comes to tools and methods, to come out of the past that we are still living in and to be a part of the world and the methods that exist, in the world. This, if we want to become more successful in what we do when it comes to Islamic way. But by the way, don't also think that talking person to person is bad. It's not, it's good. Especially with people that you are with every day. Your co-worker, for example, you can, in an indirect way. Americans don't like boldness. Don't shove your religion or whatever in the face, of that person. They like subtle things.
I agree with you about the tool. What I meant is when somebody is going to do this, the problem they are ignorant, jahleen. They are not in a position to deliver da'wah, but they are doing this. This is a problem. Like here, for example, rarely you find a masjid has an imam who is really studied Sharia, who knows exactly what he is saying. Because most of them, they are not. So this is something I think serious.
Prophet ﷺ says, نضر الله امرئا سمع مقالتي فوعاها ثم بلغها كما وعاها. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlighten the face of a person who listens or who hears what I say and then understand it and conveys it as he has heard it.
There is no problem with this, but the other.
No, I understand that.
They talk about things that maybe they don't know, and maybe they are delivering a wrong thing to the people who are listening.
No, I understand. My point is, you're supposed to invite people to what you know of Islam. For example, you know the belief as a Muslim, you have to, anyways, that the belief of Allah is essential, that there is a creator for this universe. Talk about that. What you know, okay? Do not, if you feel that you reached your max, that's it. This guy, for example, is more educated, he did more research, he studied these things, stop. You don't have to continue. Tell him there are people who specialize like you. I can give you the phone number of a person, or you can go to a certain site on the internet and there's a person who does that. But I'm saying it's important because it's more effective. Always human contact and human, what do you call it? Tawasul. Communication. If it is personal, it is more effective than any other method, maybe 3 or 4 times more effective. Because the person is in front of you. You can see whether he is thinking about what you're saying or not, whether he had enough or not, whether this subject is something he likes or not. Maybe he wants to discuss something else, whether the time is suitable or not. All of these things you don't have when you're talking on the radio. You know, when you are talking on the radio, you are just shouting in the wilderness. Only those who are interested in what you are saying will listen to you. Everybody else might turn their backs on you and leave. Okay, so knowledge is very important in da'wah, but this is for somebody who wants to specialize in da'wah and wants to deliberately go around and go to universities and colleges and answer complicated questions. But I'm talking about the average Joe on the road. I had many people who came and became Muslim. They declared their Islams because their neighbor, for example, they sit together. They talk together. Why don't you drink, for example? Why don't you? And they start a conversation like that. I tell him, Alhamdulillah, I'm happy the way I am. I don't want to run away from my reality, And our religion tells us to stay sober, all the time for us, to protect us. And simple conversations like that usually attract others. Don't think that everybody, like I said, is an ideologue and he needs a professor to sit down with him and, be at that level. And even those who are professors, by the way, and those who are use their brains a lot, don't think that when it comes to religion, they are on the same level of thinking like their careers. A doctor is a doctor in the hospital, in his clinic. But when it comes to what he does he's like anybody else. He might be more in it. And don't also forget, and this is the most important thing, that the nature of a human being is with you. There are people who become Muslim without anything, without, just when they hear about Islam and that's it. They accept it because they will tell you, this guy is talking in my tongue. This is exactly what I want to say. Okay, because Islam is the religion of fitrah. It is in line with his humanity as a human being. So that is the biggest aid for you. Even before you start, you have 30 or 40% of the success already exists in Islam itself. Okay, without you, then even more than that, maybe 60 or 70%. The 20 or 30% that are left depends on your, eloquence, your kindness, how you can present the case, how can you take advantage of certain psychological situations, and things like that. But in the end, a Muslim is supposed to have common sense and supposed to have the Islamic morals. I think those, are enough. Talking about professors, I had this legal friend that I talked to you about. He was very involved with Ahmad Didas and talking to Christians. And I used to tell him, you're wrong. You're making these people aware of a religion that they have abandoned already. Who cares here about Trinity or about people don't believe in that anymore. Even the priests themselves, 80% of them will tell you that this is, something, a tradition more than anything else. One time I told him, he called me and he said his Dodge car, a Colt, I remember at that time, in the 80s, that the transmission is broken. And I told him that across from me before, there's a mechanic, that is good. He worked on my car and he's good. So I tell you what, tomorrow I'll come pray Fajr at your place and then we will go across the street to the mechanic. I said, okay. He came, we prayed Fajr. It was winter, it was very, very cold. There is, snow all over. And we started knocking as we see him inside the shop and knocking, and he was ignoring us until became 7 o'clock. 7 because that is his hours, 7 to 5 or whatever. And we told him, why you're not open for us? It's very cold, freezing outside. He said, because this past night, somebody robbed me. He came and robbed me. He took all of my money. I had $600, $700. He took it. Dr. Umar, Allah, he told me, listen, see how da'wah now will be very effective with them? This is the time. I told him, go ahead. He asked him, he told him, do you know what we do with thieves, those who steal other people's property? He said, what do you do? He said, we chop their hands. He told him, yeah, we should even chop his head so that he will never do it again. He told me, see now it's because I جيت على الجرح يعني I hear it where it hurts. I told him, listen, you made a big mistake, believe me. Then he started working. We sat in the waiting room drinking coffee and looking at some newspapers. About an hour after that, he came to us and he said, guys, I thought about what you guys said. Don't you think it's a little crazy to cut somebody's hand for $600? I told him, here, go. Now you deal with them. Not everything. These things, even Muslims might find some difficulty accepting them. You're going to somebody who's Christian and starting, from that point. So even people who are educated, or you think that they are educated, doesn't mean that they are educated when it comes to religion or, etiquette or how to talk to people. And by the way, if you read the Quran, you find a lot of وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ وَيَقُولُونَ وَبَعْدَين كُلْ answer them. Because it is important to know what the other person's creed is, and more importantly, how he thinks. Because your creed and your point of view of the world shapes how you think and how you connect ideas with each other. So you're supposed to know the other person before you start inviting them or even talking to them. You have to understand who he is. A lot of those who make da'wah, the last thing they care about is the other person. All they know, we are right, Islam is good, so they start lecturing them about Islam without understanding, the mentality of the person in front of them. So not only you're supposed to know Islam that you're inviting them, but you're also supposed to understand the other person in front of you. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم. Some people are emotional. They don't want to think. But if you talk to them emotionally and passionately about certain things that concern them, that will bring a better result. And by the way, it is not important how a person enters into Islam, but how to stay after that. There is the challenge. Some people become a Muslim just because a woman sees another woman covered and shy and doesn't mingle with men. She likes that because that is in line with her femininity as a woman. So she might enter to Islam from this gate, from this door. Good. Now she's a Muslim. Now you can talk to her about other ahkam, prayers and fasting and matters of aqidah and so on. So da'wah means that you understand the person in front of you. Is he a person who is practical? Is he a person who is emotional? Is he an ideologue who likes to analyze and think, and things like that? And based on it, you deal with it. But there are again things that are universal. Everybody likes kindness. Nobody likes roughness. Okay? Everybody likes to see somebody concerned about him. Cares about him. So these things are supposed to always be with a Muslim. A Muslim by nature is supposed to be kind, helpful, compassionate, and loving and helping, giving people help that they need. Add to that the things that we mentioned, and you are 100%. And remember, after doing all of that, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Prophet ﷺ was the best of dua. There is nobody who can be as good as the Prophet ﷺ. He stayed in Mecca 13 years. How many people became Muslim in Mecca? Some say 60, some say 70, that's it. طيب, Mus'ab ibn Umayr, he went to Medina. Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام sent him to Medina after Bay'at al-Aqaba al-Thaniya. Within a year, he told the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, come over. Most of the people in Medina are Muslim already in 1 year. Does that mean that he is a better guy than the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام? Of course not. It just means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has opened the hearts and the minds of the people that Mus'ab talked to. And that was not the case with the Prophet ﷺ with the Meccans. Meccans, by the way, they used to consider themselves more sophisticated than the Medina. Mecca is a city, an urban, يعني عاصمة اللي في الجزيرة العربية. While Medina, the people were more simple. They were villagers, mentality of farmers, and they're more attached to nature and to growing a tree for a palm tree for 2 or 3 years in order to eat a date from it. The Meccans were traders, business, traveling and bringing goods and selling, and they want the return to come within a week or less if they can. Okay, so they used to look down at the people of Yathrib as being less sophisticated than them. It turned out that they accepted Islam more than these sophisticated people who think themselves a big deal, as it were. And they are, because Quraysh, who lived in Mecca, has the highest rank in the tribal society. Remember, once Mecca became Muslim and accepted Islam and Quraysh became a Muslim, all the Arabs in the peninsula followed suit and became a Muslim. طيب, anybody else with any question? Another question? بارك الله فيكم. هذا والله سبحانه وتعالى أعلم. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ورضي عنكم. لا تؤاخذوني طولت عليكم. كيف حالك يا أخي؟ You want to say your name? I can give you my name.